I am Diana Hart, 58 years old, and for the past 34 years, I have carried secrets heavy enough to crush nations. Tonight, sitting at my Aunt Patricia's mahogany dining table in Arlington, Virginia, surrounded by the glitter of crystal and the hollow laughter of people who have never known real danger, I realize the most lethal threat I have ever faced isn't waiting in some desert compound or encrypted server halfway across the world. It's here. It's family. The Honda Civic I drove here, 13 years old, paint faded to the color of old dishwater, a crack spiderwebbing across the windshield, sits in the circular driveway like a beggar at a ball. To my left, a Mercedes G-Wagon gleams under the porch lights, its price tag enough to fund a small tactical operation. To my right, a BMW convertible, top down despite the November chill, because my cousin Marcus likes people to see what he drives even when he's not in it. Arlington is a place where your vehicle announces your worth before you open your mouth. Mine announces failure. I kill the engine, and the Civic gives one last wheeze, settling into silence. My hands grip the steering wheel, knuckles white against the worn leather. I'm not preparing for a hostage negotiation in Beirut or a threat assessment briefing for the Joint Chiefs. But the adrenaline response is identical. My body doesn't distinguish between combat zones and family gatherings. Both require tactical thinking. Both leave scars. The rearview mirror shows a woman I barely recognize some days. Gray streaks run through dark brown hair I haven't bothered to color in 5 years. Patricia mentioned it at Easter, her voice dripping with that particular brand of concern that's really judgment wearing a mask. Diana, sweetheart, there are wonderful salons that can help with that. You're not old yet. Don't give up on yourself. I'd smiled, nodded, and filed the comment away with the other 1,000 cuts she's delivered over 4 decades. The lines around my eyes aren't from laughter. They're from squinting at satellite imagery in poorly lit situation rooms, from reading threat assessments at 3 a.m, from the particular exhaustion that comes when you hold lives in your hands and sleep becomes a luxury you can't afford. 72 hours ago, I was in a SCIF, sensitive compartmented information facility, coordinating an extraction in Yemen. 4 American contractors, taken hostage by a splinter cell we'd been tracking for 9 months. I authorized the green light for a tactical team to move in. I watched the drone feed, the thermal signatures blooming white-hot on the screen as our people breached the compound. I counted heartbeats. I counted seconds. I counted the ways it could all go wrong. It went right. 4 souls coming home for Christmas. 0 civilian casualties. A clean operation that will never make the news, that the families of those contractors will never fully understand. They'll hug their people at the airport and thank God, but they won't know about the woman in the gray pantsuit who spent 3 sleepless nights mapping every possible outcome. Who authorized lethal force if necessary? Who carries the weight of those decisions and the permanent ache between her shoulder blades? I smoothed down my suit jacket, off the rack from Macy's, practical charcoal gray, utterly devoid of style, and step out into the November air. The smell hits me first. Wood smoke from someone's fireplace, the sharp tang of fallen leaves decomposing in expensive landscaping, and underneath it all, the faint chemical scent of Patricia's designer perfume wafting from the open front door. The massive oak door swings wide before I reach the bell. Collins. No, Diana. Patricia stands framed in the doorway like she's posing for Architectural Digest. At 72, she's fighting age with the desperation of someone who believes beauty is currency. Botox has smoothed her forehead into an expressionless mask, but her eyes, sharp, calculating, always assessing, track over my outfit with the precision of a drone surveillance system. You're still wearing that dreadful gray thing? On Thanksgiving? The criticism lands before the greeting. This is Patricia's signature move, refined over decades. Make you feel small before you've crossed the threshold. I've analyzed interrogation techniques employed by hostile foreign operatives that are less psychologically sophisticated. Happy Thanksgiving, Aunt Patricia. My voice comes out flat, professional, the tone I use when briefing generals who don't want to hear bad news. I accept her hug, more of a performance than affection, her hands briefly patting my back like she's checking for concealed weapons. Come in, everyone's already here. She ushers me into the foyer, a cathedral of marble and recessed lighting that probably cost more than my annual salary. The chandelier overhead is Waterford crystal, each teardrop catching light like frozen rain. Patricia insisted on giving me the tour when she first bought this place 8 years ago, her voice bright with the particular joy of someone who needs witnesses to their wealth. The price tag came up 6 times in 15 minutes. The living room opens before us, and there he is, Marcus Blackwood, 42 years old, standing by the fireplace with a tumbler of scotch that probably costs what I spend on groceries in a month. He's wearing his navy dress blues, the dark fabric crisp and perfectly tailored, gold buttons catching the firelight. The ribbon rack on his chest is impressive, a rainbow of service, valor, achievement. He looks like a recruitment poster brought to life, all square jaw and broad shoulders, and the easy confidence of someone who has never doubted his place in the world. "Doesn't he look magnificent?" Patricia's whisper is loud enough to fill the room. She clutches my arm, her manicured nails, French tips perfectly maintained, digging in slightly. "Like a god, an absolute god." Marcus shifts his weight, uncomfortable with the praise, or maybe just aware of how it sounds. His eyes meet mine across the room, and there's something there. Embarrassment, maybe, or recognition that this is excessive even by Patricia's standards. But he doesn't tell his mother to stop. He never does. Patricia's gaze travels down my body with the subtlety of a strip search. The gray pantsuit is wrinkled from sitting in the car, the fabric cheap enough that it doesn't hide its origins. My shoes are black flats, sensible and worn, the leather scuffed from a week ago when I had to kick open a jammed door in a secure facility during a drill. To Patricia, I look like I work at the DMV. The irony would be funny if it didn't hurt. "We really must take you shopping, dear." Patricia's voice drips with that toxic combination of pity and superiority she's perfected. "You look so defeated, like you've just given up." "Happy Thanksgiving, Aunt Patricia." I repeat the words because I have no others that won't detonate this evening before the turkey is even carved. The dining room is Patricia's masterpiece, her stage for performing wealth and superiority. The table stretches beneath a second chandelier, this one even larger than the first, set with china so delicate I'm afraid to breathe near it. Silver cutlery gleams with aggressive precision, each piece polished to a mirror shine. The centerpiece is an arrangement of autumn flowers, rust-colored mums, deep burgundy roses, sprigs of wheat and berries, that probably required a designer's touch, and certainly required a designer's fee. "Sit, sit!" Patricia gestures to the chairs like a conductor positioning an orchestra. Marcus takes the head of the table, naturally, because Patricia has always positioned him as the patriarch in training. I'm relegated to the side, squeezed between a decorative vase the size of a small child and a window that lets in a cold draft. The symbolism isn't subtle. Marcus is central, important, worthy of the position of honor. I am peripheral, easily overlooked, literally pushed to the margins. My mother sits across from me, 80 years old, and shrinking into herself like a flower closing at dusk. Sarah Hart, my father's widow, a woman who learned long ago that peace costs less than pride. Her eyes fix on her empty plate, studying the gold rim as if it contains instructions for survival. I want her to look at me, to acknowledge me, to give me something, anything that says she sees what's happening here. But she doesn't. She won't. The turkey arrives on the silver platter, carried by Patricia like she's presenting a crown jewel. It's enormous, golden brown, glistening with butter and herbs, probably costing enough to feed a family of 4 for a week. Patricia sets it before Marcus with the reverence usually reserved for religious artifacts. "A warrior needs to carve the meat." Patricia announces this to the room, though there are only 4 of us here. Her voice carries the weight of pronouncement, as if she's sharing ancient wisdom rather than performing gender stereotypes. "Someone who knows how to handle a blade." Marcus takes the carving knife. He's competent with it. Military training shows in everything, even domestic tasks, and soon thick slices of white meat are falling onto the serving platter. Patricia hovers over him, her face glowing with pride that borders on worship. When the platters circulate, I watch the familiar choreography of favoritism play out. Patricia heaps Marcus's plate with the best cuts, the juiciest portions, a mountain of sage stuffing, cranberry sauce that gleams like rubies. "You need your strength, baby. After everything you've done for this country, protecting us, keeping us safe." Her voice trembles with emotion that seems genuine. And maybe it is. Maybe she really does believe Marcus is the only thing standing between America and chaos. The platter reaches me, and it's been picked clean of anything worth eating. What remains are the scraps, the dry wing pieces, the bits of dark meat that have already started to cool and congeal. Patricia reaches across with the serving spoon. She won't let me serve myself, won't allow me even that small autonomy, and drops a single wing and a scoop of green bean casserole onto my china. The beans glisten with a film of congealed fat. "Eat up, Diana!" Her voice drops into that register she reserves for children and subordinates. Although you should watch the portions, dear. When you sit in an office chair 12 hours a day, the weight just clings to you, doesn't it? Not like Marcus. He's out there in the field, burning calories, staying sharp. I look at the dry meat on my plate. I haven't eaten a proper meal in 36 hours. The irony is so rich it could be served as dessert. While Marcus's last deployment was a training rotation in Germany, important work no doubt, but hardly the front lines, my office chair has recently been inside an armored vehicle in Yemen, coordinating drone coverage and extraction routes. But this information lives behind classified walls, locked in vaults Patricia will never access. The food looks delicious, Aunt Patricia. The lie tastes like ash, but it keeps the peace. And peace is the mission objective when you're outnumbered and outgunned. Patricia takes a long sip of her Cabernet. I recognize the label. It's $200 a bottle, and leaves a perfect lipstick print on the crystal rim. "You know," she begins, and my entire nervous system goes on alert. That preamble, that casual transition always precedes an attack. "I heard on the news that the Pentagon is cutting administrative positions, budget constraints. Are you worried, honey?" I cut a piece of the turkey, chewing slowly. The meat is dry as sawdust. "My department is stable. Thank you for asking." "Stable." Patricia repeats the word like she's tasting it, finding it wanting. "That's code for boring, isn't it? For non-essential." She leans forward, her eyes bright with the particular cruelty of someone who believes they're being helpful. "Look, Diana, if you get laid off, and these things happen, nothing to be ashamed of, I'm sure Marcus could pull some strings. Couldn't you, Marcus? Get her a job on the base? Maybe answering phones, processing payroll. At least then she'd be near real soldiers. It might give her some perspective." The table goes silent. The only sound is the scrape of silverware against china, amplified in the sudden absence of conversation. Marcus stops chewing. He sets down his fork with deliberate care and looks at his mother, then at me. There's something in his expression. Embarrassment, maybe awareness that a line is being crossed. He knows I outrank him. The details are classified, the specifics hidden behind security clearances he doesn't possess. But Lieutenant Commander Marcus Blackwood knows that colonels don't answer phones. "Mom," his voice is low, careful. "Diana's doing fine. Let's talk about something else." "I'm just trying to help." Patricia throws her hands up, diamonds flashing on her fingers like small weapons catching light. "I worry about her, Marcus. It's not natural for a woman her age to be so unaccomplished. No husband, no children, no real achievements to show for all these years." My mother makes a small sound, barely human, a whimper that dies in her throat. But she doesn't look up. She keeps cutting her green beans into smaller and smaller pieces, subdividing them until they're nearly paste, terrified of drawing fire. She learned long ago that silence is survival. But Patricia isn't finished. The wine has loosened whatever thin filter she normally maintains, and her need to elevate Marcus requires a foundation. I am that foundation, the stone she stands on to reach greater heights. She leans forward, eyes narrowing with an excitement that looks almost sexual in its intensity. "Let's be honest, Diana, we're family. We can say these things." She points her fork at Marcus's chest, at the rack of ribbons that testify to training, deployment, service. "Look at him. He's a Christmas tree of valor, of achievement. And you?" The fork swings toward me, accusatory. 18 years in the Army, 34 total in government service. Not a single ribbon to show for it. Not one medal to hang on your wall. Nothing. I place my knife and fork down. I align them perfectly parallel on the plate, the handles at 4 o'clock, the angle precise. It's a grounding technique I learned in a psychological resilience course designed for field operatives. When the world tilts toward chaos, create order in the small things. Control what you can control. Awards in my line of work aren't usually public, Aunt Patricia. My voice is soft, measured, the tone I use when de-escalating situations that could turn violent. Security protocols, excuses. She cuts me off with the confidence of someone who has never been truly contradicted. If you do something brave, they pin a medal on you. That's how it works in the real military. If you don't have medals, it's because you haven't done anything worth recognizing. She pauses, and I can see her winding up for the killing blow. Is your job just making coffee for generals? Filling out their expense reports? Is that why you never talk about it? Are you embarrassed? She laughs, the sound brittle and sharp as breaking glass, and looks around the table for validation. Marcus won't meet her eyes. My mother has made herself so small she might disappear entirely. I am alone. Don't be ashamed, Diana. Truly. Patricia's voice drips with magnanimity, with the generosity of the superior toward the inferior. The world needs people to file paperwork, to keep the bureaucracy running. Not everyone has the stomach for real danger, for actual service. Some people just need a safe little hole to hide in while the real warriors do the work. The air leaves the room. I can feel my pulse in my fingertips, in my temples, behind my eyes. The fight-or-flight response floods my system with adrenaline, and I have to consciously override the urge to stand, to leave, to remove myself from this ambush. But something keeps me seated. Maybe it's the memory of my father's funeral. Maybe it's the decades of swallowed insults finally forming a mass too large to digest. Maybe I'm just tired. I look at my mother. She's my last hope for an ally, for someone to say, "That's enough, Patricia. Diana works hard. Diana is smart. Diana matters." But Sarah Hart takes a sip of water with a trembling hand and says nothing. The silence from across the table is louder than any insult Patricia could deliver. It's confirmation. It's abandonment. It's the final proof that I am fighting this war without reinforcements. I turn my gaze to the centerpiece, to the single tall white candle burning among the autumn flowers. The flame dances in the draft from the window, hypnotic, pulling me away from this moment and into memory. The scent of roasted turkey fades, replaced by rain on grass and fresh-turned earth. The white tablecloth blurs into white marble. The candle's flame becomes eternal flame. And I'm 12 years old again, standing in Arlington National Cemetery, watching them fold my father's flag. The memory is so vivid, it's like falling through time. November 1978, 46 years ago. The sky was the color of wet concrete, a fine drizzle falling that made everything blurry and cold. I stood between my mother and Aunt Patricia, wearing a black dress that was too big for me, the hem dragging in the mud. Robert Hart, my father, was being buried with military honors. But there were no crowds, no cameras, no public recognition of his service. Just a small group of men in dark overcoats, standing at a respectful distance, their faces hard and unreadable, and the honor guard performing the sacred ritual of the flag. I watched, mesmerized and heartbroken, as 7 soldiers folded the American flag in precise, crisp movements. 13 folds, each one carrying meaning I didn't yet understand. When the officer knelt before my mother and presented the tight triangle of blue fabric with white stars facing up, he spoke words I would memorize, words that would become a talisman I carried into every dangerous situation I would later face. On behalf of the President of the United States Army, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service. My mother's hand shook so violently she nearly dropped it. I wanted to reach out, to touch the flag, to feel the last physical piece of my father. But then Patricia's voice cut through the moment like a knife through silk. She was standing directly behind us, wearing a black Burberry coat that looked more appropriate for a fashion show than a funeral. She leaned close to my mother, close enough that I could hear every word, and whispered with the particular venom that only family can deliver. "See, Sarah, this is the price of stubbornness. If Robert had just listened to me, if he'd gone into commercial real estate like I suggested, he'd still be here. He'd be closing deals in Georgetown, living in a nice house, providing properly for his family. Instead, you're left with this," she gestured at the flag, "and a pension that won't even cover rent in a decent neighborhood." I was 12 years old. I didn't have the words to fight back, didn't have the understanding to recognize what she was really saying, that my father's death was a waste, that his service was stupidity, that sacrifice was just another word for failure. But I felt the words burn through me, acid eating through innocence, and something hardened in my chest that has never softened since. Patricia saw my father's death as a cautionary tale about making poor career choices. I saw it as a call to arms. That moment in the cemetery drew a line that would define the rest of my life. On one side was Patricia's world, loud, shiny, hollow, measuring worth in bank accounts and square footage. On the other side was my father's world, silent, dangerous, honorable, measuring worth in lives saved and threats neutralized. I chose my side, standing there in the rain, watching them lower my father into the ground. I chose silence over spectacle. I chose service over safety. And I chose to prove that Patricia was wrong, that my father's death meant something, that his work mattered. The candle flame flickers, and I'm back in the dining room, back in my 58-year-old body, back in the present moment where Patricia is still talking, still performing for an audience that exists only in her imagination. And that's why I think it's so important to have real achievements, real measurable success, things you can point to and say, I did that, I built that, I earned that. Don't you think so, Marcus? Marcus is looking at me strangely. His eyes have narrowed, focused with the intensity I recognize from tactical assessments. He's noticed something, though he can't quite identify what. I realize with a start that I've been running a threat assessment of the room without conscious thought. My eyes have tracked the 3 exits: front door, kitchen door, sliding glass doors to the patio. I've noted that the curtains are open, which in a real tactical situation would be a security vulnerability. I've positioned myself so I'm not directly in line with any window. I've kept my bag within arm's reach. These are not the habits of someone who files paperwork. These are the habits of someone who has operated in genuine danger, who has trained to survive in environments where a moment's inattention means death. Diana, Marcus's voice pulls me back. Why are you sitting like that? Like what? I meet his eyes, realizing too late that I've revealed something. Like you're expecting contact. He uses the military term deliberately. Like you're in a defensive position. Patricia laughs, delighted by this new avenue of mockery. Oh, Marcus, you're being dramatic. Diana just has terrible posture from hunching over a desk all day. She turns to me, her smile sharp enough to cut. You really should try yoga, dear. Or Pilates. Something to straighten out those shoulders. You look like you're carrying the weight of the world. And we both know that's not the case. But Marcus doesn't laugh. He's still watching me with that focused intensity, and I can see the gears turning behind his eyes. He's been trained to read body language, to recognize the subtle tells that separate civilians from operators. And I've just shown him something that doesn't fit the narrative he's been fed his entire life. When Patricia serves the next course, stuffing that she's somehow made both dry and greasy simultaneously, she pats my shoulder, just a casual gesture, meaningless to anyone watching. But her hand lands directly on a scar, a jagged 3-inch remnant from Aleppo, Syria, 6 years ago. I don't flinch. I've been trained not to. But there's a micro-expression, a fraction of a second flash of controlled pain that crosses my face before I can stop it. And Marcus sees it. His eyes lock on the place where Patricia's hand touched, tracking the line of my shoulder beneath the gray fabric. He knows that reaction. He's seen it before in operators who have taken shrapnel, who have been wounded in combat, who have learned to function through pain because the mission doesn't stop for personal discomfort. The memory of Aleppo floods back unbidden. I was sitting across from a tribal elder in a room that smelled of tea and gun oil and fear. 25 schoolgirls had been kidnapped by a splinter group operating near the Turkish border. I'd spent 3 days negotiating for their release, trading intelligence and leverage and promises I would have to call in favors to keep. We were minutes from agreement when the building took a hit, a mortar round that brought down part of the ceiling. Debris caught my shoulder, a piece of rebar that punched through muscle and scraped bone. The interpreter went down, unconscious. The elder started to leave. I didn't move from my chair. I wrapped the wound with a field dressing, applied pressure with one hand while I continued negotiating with the other, and got him to sign the agreement. We extracted 23 of the 25 girls. The two we lost, Aisha and Mariam, ages 14 and 16. I still see their faces some nights when I can't sleep. But Patricia doesn't see any of this. She sees a middle-aged woman in a cheap suit, failing at life by every metric that matters in her world. The meal continues its brutal choreography. Marcus receives seconds and thirds, his plate constantly full. I receive nothing unless I specifically ask. And even then, Patricia portions it out like she's rationing supplies during a siege. My mother eats in silence, disappearing into herself like a ghost who's forgotten how to haunt. And Patricia holds court, getting progressively drunker on expensive wine, her filter eroding with each glass until there's nothing left but pure, uncut cruelty. Do you ever think about what you've missed, Diana? Patricia swirls her wine, watching the dark liquid coat the crystal. Romance, marriage, children, the things that make life worth living. I'm content with my choices, Aunt Patricia. Content! She spits the word like it tastes bad. Content is what people say when they've given up, when they've accepted defeat. She gestures broadly, nearly knocking over her glass. Look at Marcus. He has Stephanie, gorgeous woman, too good for him really, and those two beautiful children. He has a legacy, something that will outlast him. What do you have? What will people remember about Diana Hart when you're gone? The question hangs in the air like smoke. What will people remember? They won't. That's the entire point. The most successful intelligence operations are the ones that never make the history books. The threats neutralize so completely that no one knows they existed. I've spent 34 years being deliberately forgettable, cultivating invisibility as a tactical advantage. But how do you explain that to someone who measures worth in Instagram likes and country club memberships? I hope people remember I did my job well. It's the only answer I can give that isn't classified. Patricia laughs so hard she has to dab her eyes with her napkin, careful not to smudge her makeup. Your job. Oh, sweetheart. Filing reports and scheduling meetings isn't a job anyone remembers. It's just existing. It's taking up space. Marcus shifts in his chair, clearly uncomfortable. Mom, It's the truth, Marcus. Someone has to tell her. Patricia leans toward me, her voice dropping to a stage whisper that fills the room. You've wasted your life, Diana. You could have been something. You were so smart as a child, valedictorian, wasn't it? And you threw it all away to be a government drone. It's tragic, really. Your father would be so disappointed. And there it is, the nuclear option. The weapon Patricia has been saving for maximum impact. She's invoked my father, the man whose funeral she used as an opportunity to criticize his choices, whose death she saw as vindication of her own superior life decisions. She's using his memory as a cudgel to beat me with, and the breathtaking audacity of it nearly makes me laugh. My father, I start, but my voice cracks. 34 years of professional composure, of controlling my emotions under circumstances that would break most people, and a wine-drunk 72-year-old woman has found the fissure in my armor. Your father was a good man, Patricia continues, oblivious or indifferent to the pain she's causing. But he was also a cautionary tale. He chose ideology over practicality, and it cost him everything. And you've done the same thing. You followed him right into obscurity. I stand up. The movement is controlled, deliberate, but there's something in it that makes Marcus instantly alert. He recognizes the body language of someone preparing for action, the micro-adjustments of posture that precede either flight or fight. Aunt Patricia, I need to use the restroom. My voice is steady, professional, completely divorced from the emotional chaos rioting through my nervous system. Down the hall, second door on the left. Patricia waves dismissively, already turning back to Marcus, already moving on to her next monologue about his superiority. I walk to the bathroom with measured steps, close the door, lock it, and then I brace my hands on the marble counter and look at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back has eyes that have seen too much, that carry the weight of decisions made in split seconds with incomplete information. She has a scar on her shoulder from saving girls in Syria. She has calluses on her hands from weapons training she can't acknowledge. She has a security clearance so high that most members of Congress don't have access to the same information. And she has a family that sees none of it, that has decided she is worthless because her worth cannot be displayed on a mantle or bragged about at cocktail parties. My phone vibrates in my pocket. Secure line. I pull it out, see the encryption protocol initializing, and answer. Heart. Ma'am, we have a situation developing in Lagos. 3 American contractors taken by a splinter group. FBI is requesting intel support and possible extraction coordination. The voice is young, efficient, scared. Someone's first real crisis. I close my eyes, take a breath, open them and look at myself in the mirror one more time. The woman who is a failure in Patricia's eyes. The woman who is about to save 3 lives before the night is over. Send the briefing package to my secure device. I'll be on site in 90 minutes. I pause. And contact Colonel Chen. Tell him I need the full extraction team on standby. Yes, ma'am. Nightingale protocol? Nightingale protocol. Confirmed. I end the call. Flush the toilet for the sake of appearances. Wash my hands in water so hot it nearly scalds. And return to the dining room where Patricia is in the middle of another story about Marcus's heroism. This one involving a training exercise he participated in 3 years ago, that she's somehow inflated into a life-or-death scenario. I sit down, pick up my fork, take a bite of cold turkey. Everything all right, Diana? Patricia's concern is performative, empty. You look pale. Are you feeling ill? I'm fine, just tired. Of course you're tired. Sitting in a chair all day will do that. She turns to Marcus. That's why I'm so glad you stay active, baby. Physical fitness is mental fitness. Isn't that what they say in the military? Marcus doesn't answer. He's looking at me with an expression I can't quite read. Suspicion, curiosity, something that might be the beginning of understanding. The meal drags on for another 40 minutes. Dessert is pumpkin pie with fresh whipped cream, and Patricia gives Marcus 2 slices while offering me none until I specifically request it. Coffee is served in delicate cups that feel like they might shatter if I grip them too hard. And through it all, Patricia continues her assault, each comment a precision strike designed to reinforce the hierarchy she's established. Marcus at the top, shining and perfect and worthy. Me at the bottom, failing and forgettable and fundamentally flawed. Finally, mercifully, the evening ends. I stand, thank Patricia for dinner with words that mean nothing, and move toward the door. Marcus follows me out, his dress shoes clicking on the marble floor. Diana, wait! I turn. He's standing in the doorway, backlit by the chandelier, looking uncertain in a way I've never seen before. I'm sorry about tonight. She gets carried away sometimes. It's fine, Marcus. It's not fine. The things she said about you, about your work, it's not right. I look at this man who I've watched grow from a spoiled child into a competent officer, who has lived his entire life bathed in his mother's adoration, who has never had to question whether he matters. And I feel something that might be pity or might be exhaustion, or might just be the desperate need to get to my car and drive to the Pentagon where 3 Americans are waiting for someone to bring them home. Marcus, your mother sees what she wants to see. She always has. Don't let it trouble you. But the way she talks about your job, she doesn't know what I do. And that's exactly how it should be. He frowns, confused, and I can see questions forming. But I don't have time for this. I don't have time for anything except the mission that's waiting for me in Lagos. I have to go. Thanks Stephanie and the kids for the invitation. I didn't see them tonight. They're spending Thanksgiving with Stephanie's family, but the courtesy costs nothing. Diana. He stops me one more time, his hand on my arm. That thing you do, scanning rooms, checking exits, that's not normal civilian behavior. I meet his eyes, hold his gaze, let him see just a fraction of what lives behind my carefully maintained facade. Nothing about me is normal, Marcus. Your mother is right about that at least. I pull away, walk to my Honda Civic, and drive away from the $3 million house where I will never be welcome, where I will always be the failure, the disappointment, the waste of potential. The rearview mirror shows Patricia's house receding into the distance, lights blazing like a beacon of everything I'm supposed to want and have failed to achieve. My secure phone rings before I'm even out of the neighborhood. Heart. Ma'am, situation update. The splinter group is demanding ransom. State Department is involved, but they're asking for your assessment on whether they're willing to negotiate or if this is a stalling tactic. I merge onto the highway, leaving Arlington behind. The Pentagon is 40 minutes away. I have work to do. Real work. the kind that saves lives and prevents catastrophes and never ever gets acknowledged at Thanksgiving dinner. Tell State to stall. Send me the communications analysis. I want voice stress analysis on the last 3 calls. And get me everything we have on the group's leadership. I need to know if they have a history of executing hostages, or if this is about money. Yes, ma'am, sending now. The data starts populating on my secure device mounted on the dashboard. Intelligence reports, satellite imagery, communications intercepts. The digital architecture of a crisis that most people will never know existed. And I do what I've done for 34 years. I compartmentalize. I put Patricia and her cruelty in a box labeled personal and lock it away. I put my mother's silence in another box, sealed tight. I put the hurt and anger and bone-deep exhaustion somewhere it can't interfere with the mission. Because 3 Americans are depending on someone to make the right calls, to see the patterns in the chaos, to bring them home. And whether anyone ever knows it or not, whether I ever get a medal or recognition or even basic respect from my own family, I am the person who does this work. I am Diana Hart. I am 58 years old. I am invisible. And I am about to save 3 lives before sunrise. The highway stretches ahead, empty at this hour, and I press down on the accelerator. The Honda Civic, that pathetic symbol of my failure in Patricia's eyes, carries me toward the Pentagon, toward the crisis, toward the work that defines me even if it can never be spoken aloud. In my rearview mirror, Arlington disappears into darkness, and I don't look back. The SCIF at the Pentagon feels like a sensory deprivation chamber at 3 in the morning. No windows, no natural light, just the blue-white glow of monitors and the steady hum of air conditioning keeping both servers and analysts awake. I've been here for 68 hours straight, coordinating the Lagos extraction with a team spread across 3 continents, and my body has started sending distress signals my mind refuses to acknowledge. The 9th cup of coffee sits cold on the desk, a brown ring forming on classified documents I'll have to shred before leaving. Colonel James Chen enters without knocking, the only person who has that privilege. At 55, he's weathered in the way field operatives get, lines carved deep around eyes that have seen too much. We've worked together for 12 years, survived 3 different administrations, and once spent 4 days in a safe house in Bogota, waiting for an extraction that nearly didn't come. He knows my tells better than anyone. Lagos is secure. His voice carries relief and exhaustion in equal measure. 4 souls going home for Christmas because of you. I don't feel victorious. I feel hollow, like someone scraped out my insides and forgot to refill the space. 0 civilian casualties. 0. Clean operation, the kind that never makes CNN. Good. I lean back in the chair, feeling vertebrae crack in protest. That's good. Chen studies my face with the intensity of someone reading satellite imagery. When was the last time you slept? Sleep is for people who don't have contractors depending on them. Diana, you can't save the world if you're dead from exhaustion. He pulls up a chair, sitting close enough that I can smell coffee and concern on him. What happened? You've run operations before without looking like a ghost. I consider lying. It's instinctive after 3 decades of operational security, of keeping everything compartmentalized and controlled. But exhaustion has eroded my filters, and Chen has clearance for almost everything except the deepest parts of my personal life. Thanksgiving dinner with family. His eyebrows rise. That bad? Worse. The word comes out bitter. My aunt spent 2 hours explaining to everyone at the table how I've wasted my life, how I'm just a glorified secretary who files reports nobody reads, how I have no achievements, no medals, nothing to show for 18 years Army and 34 years total government service. Chen's expression darkens. She said that? To your face? She said a lot of things. Used my father's death as evidence that service is stupidity. Suggested Marcus, her Navy SEAL son who thinks his training rotation in Germany was combat deployment, should get me a job answering phones on his base. You know, so I could be near real soldiers. The anger I've been suppressing leaks through like radiation through cracked shielding. She called me a pog, James. A person other than Grunt. She's never served a day in her life and she called me a fucking pog. Jesus. Chen runs a hand through graying hair. What did you do? I ate dry turkey and said nothing. Because operational security is more important than pride. Because my oath to keep classified information classified doesn't have an exemption clause for family humiliation. That's not strength, Diana. That's martyrdom. The accusation stings because it might be true. I've spent so long defining myself by what I can't say, by the silence I maintain, that I've forgotten there are battles worth fighting outside mission parameters. Chen leans forward, elbows on his knees. You know what the real tragedy is? People like your aunt sleep safely in their mansions because people like you make decisions at 3 in the morning that keep the monsters away from their doors. And they'll never know. They'll never understand that the reason they get to live their small, petty lives is because someone else is living a large, dangerous one on their behalf. I don't need her to understand. But even as I say it, I know it's a lie. Some part of me, maybe the 12-year-old girl standing in the rain at Arlington Cemetery, maybe the teenager whose 16th birthday no one remembered, still wants Patricia to see me, to acknowledge that I matter, to admit that her measurements of success are too small to capture what I've built. Don't you? Chen's voice is gentle but relentless. Because from where I'm sitting, you look like someone who just got hit by friendly fire and can't even admit they're bleeding. I stand abruptly, needing movement, needing distance. I need to go home, debrief in 12 hours. 18. You need actual sleep. He stands too, blocking my path to the door. Diana, listen to me. What you do matters. Those 4 contractors going home to their families, that matters. The 23 girls you got out of Syria, that matters. The fact that nobody knows your name isn't a bug, it's a feature. You're effective because you're invisible. Then why does it hurt so much? The question escapes before I can stop it. Vulnerability I didn't mean to show. Chen's face softens. Because you're human. And humans need to be seen sometimes, even if they've chosen a life in the shadows. I drive home in dawn light that feels too bright after 3 days in artificial illumination. My apartment in a modest complex off Columbia Pike is exactly what you'd expect from someone who lives alone and spends most of their time elsewhere. Functional, spare, devoid of personality. The furniture is IKEA, assembled with the efficiency of someone who can field strip a weapon, but has never learned to make a space feel like home. Photos line one wall, but they're mostly landscapes from places I've been stationed. Empty vistas that don't require explanation. I shower in water hot enough to hurt. Dress in civilian clothes, jeans and a Georgetown sweatshirt soft from years of washing, and pour my 10th cup of coffee. The phone rings before I've taken the first sip. Civilian line, not secure. Marcus. I stare at his name on the screen, debating, answer and face whatever this is, or let it go to voicemail and maintain the status quo. But curiosity wins. Or maybe just exhaustion has killed my judgment. Diana Hart. Diana. His voice sounds rough, uncertain. Can we talk? If this is your mother calling through you, it's not. I swear. I need to apologize, not just for Thanksgiving, for everything, for 42 years of being blind. The admission catches me off guard. Marcus has never been particularly self-aware, never been one to question the narrative Patricia constructed around him. You don't need to apologize for... I do. He cuts me off with sudden intensity. I talk to people, Diana. After you left, I couldn't stop thinking about the way you sat at that table, the way you scanned the room, the way you didn't flinch when Mom touched your shoulder, even though I saw pain in your eyes for just a second. Ice floods my veins. He noticed. Despite everything, despite the wine and his mother's theater, he noticed. I called a friend at CIA, asked about protocols for intelligence officers, asked about behavioral patterns for people who've operated in hostile environments. His voice drops lower. And then I asked about someone called Nightingale. The codename hits like a punch to the solar plexus. Marcus. The silence on the other end of that call lasted so long I thought he'd hung up. Then he asked me where I'd heard that name. When I wouldn't tell him, he said... Marcus takes a shaky breath. He said, if I knew someone with that designation, I should show them the utmost respect. That Nightingale isn't just a call sign, it's a legacy. That the current Nightingale has been running critical operations for over 2 decades. That grown men, generals, go quiet when that name comes up. I say nothing. Confirming is a security breach. Denying is pointless now. So I sit in silence and wait for him to finish excavating the truth. Is it you? The question comes out barely above a whisper. Are you Nightingale? I can't answer that question, Marcus. Which is an answer. He laughs, but there's no humor in it. Oh God, Diana. all those years, all those holidays where Mom paraded me around like I was the only one serving, the only one sacrificing. And I was doing my job, just like you do, Yar. Don't. The word comes out sharp. Don't minimize this. I've been in combat, Diana. I know what it looks like when someone has seen real shit. And I saw it on your face at that table, but I was too caught up in being the golden child to recognize it. The rawness in his voice cracked something in my carefully maintained composure. Marcus, your service is legitimate. You've earned your achievements, built on a foundation of tearing you down. He sounds wrecked. Every time Mom praised me, she did it by making you smaller. Every ribbon on my chest came with a comment about how you had none. And I let it happen because it felt good to be worshipped. I closed my eyes, leaning against the kitchen counter. She's your mother. You loved her. Love her. That's not a crime. Can I see you? Somewhere neutral. I need to understand what I've been part of. Against every instinct, against protocols that would have me maintain distance and deniability, I agree. Arlington Cemetery. Tomorrow at 10, my father's grave. I'll be there. The call ends, and I'm left standing in my kitchen with cold coffee and the unsettling feeling that something fundamental has shifted in the architecture of my family dynamics. For 46 years, Patricia has controlled the narrative. Who matters, who doesn't, who deserves recognition, and who deserves contempt. Marcus questioning that narrative is like watching a tectonic plate shift. Small tremors now, but earthquakes follow. I spend the rest of the day trying to sleep and failing. Every time I close my eyes, I see Patricia's face twisted in that particular expression of malicious satisfaction she wears when delivering what she considers home truths. I hear her voice explaining to the table that I'm wasting my life, that my father would be disappointed, that I'm just taking up space in a world that has no use for invisible women. The cruelty isn't new. That's what makes it hurt. Not the surprise of attack, but the grinding familiarity of it. 46 years of this. 46 years of being the backdrop against which Marcus shines brighter. 46 years of swallowing insults and maintaining operational security and telling myself that the mission matters more than personal vindication. But James Chen's words echo in the spaces between consciousness and sleep. That's not strength, Diana. That's martyrdom. Arlington Cemetery spreads across 600 acres of Virginia hillside, row after row of white marble headstones standing at eternal attention. November has stripped the trees bare, leaving skeletal branches against a sky the color of old pewter. I arrive early, as always. Tactical habit, securing the terrain before the meeting. My father's grave sits in Section 60, where service members from Iraq and Afghanistan now join veterans of earlier wars. The headstone is simple. Major Robert Hart, 1943 to 1978, followed by dates of service and a single line. A silent guardian. I chose those words when I was 18 and finally had legal authority to add them. Patricia objected, said it was too melodramatic, but the VA approved it, and there was nothing she could do. I stand there in jeans and a heavy coat, hands shoved in pockets, reading words I could recite in my sleep. 34 years in the intelligence community, and I still don't know exactly what my father did. The details remain classified even now. Locked in vaults I don't have access to. But I know enough. I know he died during an operation in Eastern Europe, something involving Soviet-era weapons that could have changed the Cold War's trajectory. I know his death prevented something catastrophic. I know he mattered. Footsteps on the path behind me. Marcus approaches slowly, dressed in civilian clothes, jeans and a North Face jacket, looking more vulnerable without his uniform than I've ever seen him. He stops a respectful distance away, reading the headstone over my shoulder. A silent guardian. His voice is quiet. I never knew what that meant. It means he died protecting secrets too important to be named. I don't turn around. It means his legacy is measured in disasters that didn't happen, in lives saved that will never know his name. Like you. Now I do turn, meeting his eyes. I'm not my father, Marcus. No, you're better. He says it with such conviction that I almost believe him. He had 30 years. You've had 34 and you're still going. How many operations have you run? How many lives saved? I can't answer those questions. Because they're classified or because you've lost count? The accuracy of that hits harder than it should. Both. He moves to stand beside me, both of us facing the grave now. I need to tell you something, and I need you to just listen, okay? Don't minimize it, don't deflect, just let me say this. I nod, not trusting my voice. Growing up, I had everything. Mom worshipped me. Everyone told me I was special, destined for greatness. And I believed it because I had no reason not to. His breath comes out in visible puffs in the cold air. But underneath all that praise was this constant comparison to you. You weren't pretty enough, successful enough, worthy enough. Mom built me up by tearing you down. And I accepted that architecture without question because it benefited me. Marcus, I'm not done. He turns to face me fully. Thanksgiving wasn't the first time I saw the cracks. 5 years ago at my wedding, Mom spent the whole reception talking about how sad it was that you'd never find someone, never have a family. She made it sound like you were this cautionary tale, this warning about what happens when women prioritize career over what really matters. I remember that wedding. I left early, not because of Patricia's comments, I was used to those, but because I got a call about a trafficking operation crossing the Syrian border. 23 girls who needed someone to coordinate their rescue while Patricia danced and drank champagne. You left that night. Marcus is watching my face. I thought you were hurt by Mom's comments, but that wasn't it, was it? You left because someone needed you somewhere else. I can neither confirm nor deny. Stop. The word comes out harsh. Just stop with the operational security speech. I'm not asking for classified details. I'm asking you to let me see the person my mother spent a lifetime trying to make invisible. The request is so naked, so sincere, that my defenses crack. Yes, I left because I had work to do. Work that saved lives while your mother told everyone I was wasting mine. Did she ever ask? Did she ever wonder why you left early from family events? Why you looked exhausted? Why you had scars you wouldn't explain? Narcissists don't wonder about other people, Marcus. They see mirrors or threats. I was never going to be her mirror. He flinches at the bluntness. Is that what I am? A mirror? You're her son. You're supposed to be. I soften my voice because he's genuinely trying to understand, and that deserves something more than tactical deflection. She needed you to be extraordinary so she could take credit for creating something extraordinary. That's not your fault. But I participated in it. Every time I accepted praise that came at your expense, every time I stayed silent while she diminished you, I was complicit. His voice breaks. I'm ashamed, Diana. I'm 42 years old, and I'm just now realizing that the person I thought was a failure might be the most successful person I've ever known. We stand in silence, two people trying to rebuild a relationship that was poisoned before it could properly form. Around us, Arlington stretches in all directions. Thousands of headstones marking thousands of silent guardians who served without expectation of recognition. My father is one of many. I will be one of many. And that's exactly how it should be. I forgive you, Marcus. The words surprise me as much as they seem to surprise him. You were a child shaped by an adult's pathology. You didn't create this dynamic, but I profited from it. And now you're questioning it. That's more than most people do. I turn back to the grave. The real question is what happens next, because Patricia isn't going to accept you seeing me differently. To her, that's betrayal. Let her be betrayed. There's steel in his voice I haven't heard before. I'm done being her reflection. Before I can respond, my phone rings. Secure line. I check the screen and my stomach drops. I need to take this. Marcus nods, stepping away to give me privacy that doesn't matter since he can't hear the encrypted conversation anyway. I answer. Hart. Ma'am, this is Agent Morrison, FBI Counterterrorism. We have a situation, and your name came up as someone who might have relevant intelligence. The voice is clipped, professional, scared. There's been chatter about a potential attack on the metro system. Our analysts are seeing patterns that match operations you've worked before. The world narrows to this moment, this call, this choice. Send me everything you have. I'll review and call you back in 2 hours. Ma'am, with respect, we might not have 2 hours. Then you'll have my assessment in 1 hour. Hard out. I end the call and look at Marcus, who's studying my face with the intensity of someone trying to read a foreign language. You have to go. It's not a question. I have to go. This is what it's always like, isn't it? Family dinner interrupted by crisis. Holidays cut short by emergencies nobody else knows about. Understanding spreads across his features. You've been fighting a war none of us could see. Everyone fights wars nobody else can see, Marcus. Some are just more literal than others. He steps forward, surprising me by pulling me into a hug. It's brief, awkward, but genuine. Thank you for everything you've done that I'll never know about. And I'm sorry for everything I didn't see. I hug him back briefly, then pull away. Take care of your family. That matters too. Will I see you at Christmas? The question hangs between us. Christmas at Patricia's house, another performance of my inadequacy against the backdrop of Marcus's excellence. Or the first year I don't go, the first time I choose my own peace over familial obligation. I don't know yet. I'll let you know. I walk back to my car, leaving Marcus standing by our father's grave. In the rearview mirror, I see him still there, a solitary figure among 10,000 silent guardians. And for the first time in 42 years, he looks lost. The drive back to my apartment takes 30 minutes. I have an hour to review FBI intelligence on a potential Metro attack, which means I have 30 minutes to access the classified databases, cross-reference with ongoing operations, and determine if this is credible threat or noise in the signal. But when I pull into my parking space, there's a car I don't recognize, a silver Lexus with Virginia plates, and standing beside it, looking smaller and older than I remember, is my mother. Sarah Hart at 80 is a diminished version of the woman who stood beside me at my father's funeral. She's wearing a camel-colored coat that hangs off her frame, holding a purse with both hands like it's the only thing keeping her anchored to earth. When she sees me, her face crumples. Diana, I'm so sorry to just show up, but I didn't know what else to do. Every tactical instinct screams at me to maintain distance, to protect operational security, to keep her out of my space. But she's my mother and she looks terrified, so I unlock the apartment and let her in. She sits on my IKEA couch, perching on the edge like she's afraid to impose. Patricia called me this morning. She's furious about Marcus meeting with you. How did she know about that? She has his location tracked on her phone. She saw he was at Arlington and she just knew. Sarah's hands twist the purse strap. She called me screaming about how you're poisoning him against her, how you've always been jealous of their relationship, how you're destroying the family. The absurdity would be funny if it wasn't so predictable. I'm destroying the family by having a conversation with my cousin at our father's grave. She thinks you're turning him against her. Sarah looks up, eyes wet. Is that true? Mom, I haven't done anything except exist. Marcus is questioning things on his own because he's finally seeing what's been in front of him his whole life, which is that Patricia's love is conditional and competitive, that she needs people to be less than her son so he can be more, that she's been using me as a stepping stone for 46 years. Sarah flinches. She's my sister-in-law, she's family. And I'm your daughter. The words come out harder than intended. At what point do you choose me over keeping the peace with her? The question hangs between us, heavy as classified documents. Sarah looks away, tears spilling over. You don't know what it's like, Diana. After your father died, I had nothing. No career, no skills, no money. Patricia was the one who helped me keep the house, who made sure you had what you needed. She was there when I was falling apart. And she's held that over your head ever since. I sit down beside her, gentler now. Mom, I understand you felt indebted to her, but that debt doesn't require you to watch her destroy your daughter and say nothing. I don't have your strength. She's sobbing now, years of suppressed emotion breaking through. I can't stand up to her like you can. I can't just walk away from family like it means nothing. It doesn't mean nothing. My voice cracks despite my best efforts. It means so much that it's killing me. But I can't sacrifice my self-respect to maintain a relationship with someone who sees me as worthless. Sarah reaches for my hand, gripping it with surprising strength. You're not worthless. You're extraordinary. And I'm sorry I never said it when you needed to hear it. The apology I've waited 46 years for lands with less impact than I imagined. Because it's coming now, in crisis. Not in all those quiet moments when it would have changed everything. I need you to leave, Mom. I have a work emergency that requires immediate attention. She nods, understanding, or maybe just accepting that I've chosen work over emotional processing. Again, always, because that's what I do. Will you come for Christmas? The same question Marcus asked, waited with the same desperate hope for normalcy. I don't know. After she leaves, I have 42 minutes to review the FBI intelligence. I pour coffee, open my secure laptop, and dive into the data. Intercepted communications, pattern analysis, threat assessments from 6 different agencies. The information washes over me, finding its place in the mental framework I've built over 3 decades of connecting dots others can't see. 20 minutes in, I see it. The pattern hidden in the noise, the signature of a cell we've been tracking for 18 months. This isn't new threat. It's old threat revealing new methodology. The Metro attack is cover for something bigger, a distraction, while the real operation happens elsewhere. I call Agent Morrison back. The Metro threat is a diversion. You're looking at the wrong target. Ma'am, with respect, our analysis is being fed information designed to misdirect. Cross-reference these communications with the cell we dismantled in Baltimore 6 months ago. Same linguistic patterns, same operational security failures. They want you looking at the Metro while they move on a different target. Silence on the other end while Morrison processes. What's the real target? That's what I'm working on now. Give me 2 hours. I spend those 2 hours in the state I know best. Focused, analytical, emotions locked away in compartments where they can't interfere. The world narrows to data points and probability matrices, and the cold calculus of threat assessment. This is where I'm most comfortable, where the rules are clear, and success is measurable, and nobody questions my worth. By hour 3, I've identified the likely target, a fundraising gala at the Kennedy Center with multiple foreign dignitaries attending. I coordinate with FBI, Secret Service, and diplomatic security. The threat is neutralized quietly, professionally, with no public awareness that disaster was averted. Another crisis managed, another catastrophe prevented, another operation that will never make the news. I'm writing the after-action report when my phone rings again. Not secure this time. Patricia. I stare at her name, debating. But exhaustion has eroded my judgment, and some self-destructive impulse makes me answer. Diana Hart. You conniving little bitch! Her voice is pure venom, refined hatred without pretense. You got to Marcus, you poisoned him against me. Patricia, I don't know what you think happened. I know exactly what happened. He's questioning me, questioning his entire childhood, asking me why I compared him to you, why I made you feel bad. 42 years of being a perfect mother, and you've destroyed it in one conversation. The delusion is breathtaking. Patricia, I had one conversation with Marcus where I did nothing but confirm what he was already seeing. You confirmed lies, twisted his perception to make yourself look better. Something in me breaks. Maybe it's the exhaustion. Maybe it's the 72 hours without sleep. Maybe it's 46 years of taking fire without returning it. Whatever the reason, the filter that's kept me professional and controlled shatters. You want to know what I confirmed? I confirmed that you've spent his entire life building him up by tearing me down, that every compliment you gave him came with a comparison to how I was failing, that you needed me to be worthless so he could be worthy. That's not, I was trying to help you, to motivate you. By calling me a pog, by suggesting I get a job answering phones, by telling an entire Thanksgiving table that I've wasted my life and my father would be ashamed. My voice is steel now, cold and cutting. That's not motivation, Patricia. That's cruelty dressed up as concern. You ungrateful. After everything I did for you and Sarah after Robert died, you held that over our heads like a sword. Every kindness came with strings attached. Every bit of help was ammunition for future attacks. You didn't save us, Patricia. You enslaved us. The silence on the other end is total. I've crossed a line, spoken a truth we've all been dancing around for decades. There's no going back from this. When Patricia speaks again, her voice is different. Quieter, deadlier. You think you're so special with your secret job and your security clearance, but you're nothing, Diana. You're a middle-aged woman with no family, no legacy, no life. And when you die alone in that sad little apartment, nobody will remember you existed. The attack lands where she intended, right in the center of my deepest fear. That invisibility isn't strength, but erasure. That choosing silence over recognition means choosing to be forgotten. Maybe you're right. My voice is steady despite the pain. Maybe I won't be remembered. But I'll have the satisfaction of knowing that people are alive because of choices I made. Can you say the same? I hang up before she can respond, cutting the connection with the finality of a door slamming. My hands are shaking. My heart is racing. I've just declared war on the one family member who has defined my existence since childhood, and the victory feels hollow. The phone rings again immediately, Patricia undoubtedly ready to escalate. But when I check the screen, it's Marcus. Don't answer her calls. His voice is tight. She just tried me too, completely unhinged. She has a right to be angry. I just told her some hard truths. Good. The fierceness surprises me. Someone should have done it decades ago. Diana, I need to tell you something and you're not gonna like it. Dread pools in my stomach. What? Mom's been trying to investigate you. She called a friend who's a congressional staffer, tried to get access to your employment records, asked questions about your security clearance, your job title, whether you've ever had mental health issues. The violation is so complete, so calculated that I actually laugh. She tried to weaponize Congress against me. The staffer flagged it as inappropriate and reported it. You'll probably get a call from your security office. I will, and it will be a mess to untangle. Explaining why a family member is trying to access classified information, proving I haven't been compromised, demonstrating that I can still maintain operational security despite this breach of trust. Marcus, I need to go. There are procedures I have to follow now. I'm sorry. I should have warned you that she'd go nuclear. You couldn't have known. But even as I say it, I wonder if that's true. Patricia has always been predictable in her escalation patterns, always chosen the nuclear option when conventional warfare failed. After the call ends, I sit in my apartment as evening darkens into night, and I make a decision I should have made decades ago. I'm done. Done with the performance, done with the abuse, done with sacrificing my peace to maintain a relationship that has only ever diminished me. I call my lawyer, because of course I have a lawyer given the nature of my work, and dictate the terms of a cease and desist letter. If Patricia attempts to access my employment records again, if she spreads false information about my mental health, if she makes any further attempts to interfere with my career or reputation, I will pursue legal action. The lawyer reads it back to me, confirms details, and asks, "Are you sure you want to do this? Family disputes can get messy." This family has been messy for 46 years. I'm just finally acknowledging it. That night, I don't sleep. I sit on my balcony with a glass of wine I don't drink, watching planes cross the sky toward Reagan National, and I think about legacy. What Marcus asked me at the cemetery echoes. How many operations have you run? How many lives saved? I've lost count. But I remember specific faces. The contractor in Yemen who sent me a Christmas card every year. The 23 girls from Syria, some of whom found me on social media years later to say thank you. The 4 from Lagos who don't even know my name but are alive to celebrate holidays with their families. That's legacy. Not medals or headlines or recognition at Thanksgiving dinner, but the quiet accumulation of moments where I stood between chaos and innocent people and chose to absorb the impact myself. Patricia's words echo too. When you die alone in that sad little apartment, nobody will remember you existed. Maybe she's right. Maybe invisibility is its own kind of death. Or maybe being remembered isn't the point. Maybe the point is simply doing the work, making the calls, saving the lives that can be saved, and mourning the ones that can't. Maybe legacy isn't about being remembered, but about mattering in the moments that count. My phone vibrates with a message from Colonel Chen. Heard about Patricia's congressional fishing expedition, you okay? I type back surviving, thanks for asking. His response is immediate. You're more than surviving, you're thriving despite people trying to drag you down. Don't let her win. But what does winning look like? Cutting off family? Building walls so high nobody can hurt me? Or finding some middle ground where I maintain boundaries without becoming the isolated fortress Patricia accused me of being? I don't have answers. I only have this. The knowledge that tomorrow I'll go back to work. Back to the SCIF, back to the crises that require my expertise. I'll coordinate operations and save lives and maintain the silence that keeps the world turning. And whether anyone knows it or not, whether Patricia ever acknowledges it or not, I'll matter. That will have to be enough. The call comes at 2 a.m, 3 weeks after I sent the cease and desist letter to Patricia. Marcus's voice is ragged, scraped raw by something bigger than exhaustion. It's Mom, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. They're saying maybe 3 months. I sit up in bed, the phone cold against my ear, and feel absolutely nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, no triumph that karma has finally arrived at Patricia's door. Just emptiness, like someone carved out the space where emotion should live and forgot to fill it back in. When did she find out? 2 days ago. She didn't want me to tell you. His voice breaks. But I thought you should know, despite everything. Where is she? Walter Reed, room 402. They're starting palliative care tomorrow. I should feel something, anger maybe, or pity. Instead, I feel the same cold clarity that descends when I'm coordinating operations, assessing the situation, calculating outcomes, determining the optimal response. I'll come tomorrow, afternoon visiting hours. Diana, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Not for her, for me. After he hangs up, I lie in the dark and think about death. My father died suddenly, violently, in service to something larger than himself. Patricia is dying slowly, her body betraying her the way she betrayed everyone who loved her. The symmetry is almost poetic, if poetry can be this bitter. Sleep doesn't come. I watch the ceiling and count the operations I've run since that Thanksgiving dinner. 6 major incidents, 11 lives saved, 2 hostages recovered, 1 terrorist cell dismantled before they could execute an attack on a synagogue in Philadelphia. The work continues regardless of family drama, regardless of personal crisis, because it has to. At dawn, I go for a run, pushing hard enough that my lungs burn and my legs threaten to give out. Physical pain is easier than emotional processing. By the time I shower and dress, civilian clothes again, jeans and a sweater the color of storm clouds, I've compartmentalized Patricia's cancer into the same mental box where I keep all the things I can't control. Walter Reed National Military Medical Center is a fortress of healing and dying, where heroes come to be saved and sometimes to surrender. I've been here before, visiting wounded operators whose names I can't share, whose injuries resulted from missions I authorized. The smell hits me as soon as I enter. Antiseptic trying and failing to mask illness. Flowers brought by visitors who don't know what else to offer. The particular staleness of air that's been recirculated too many times. Room 402 is in the oncology ward, where hope comes to die with dignity. I knock once and enter without waiting for permission. The woman in the bed is a stranger. Patricia Blackwood at 72 was formidable despite the Botox and designer clothes, a force of personality that filled rooms and bent people to her will. This creature is diminished, hollowed out, her skin hanging loose on bones that seem to be retreating from the world. The blonde hair is gone, replaced by patchy fuzz that makes her skull visible. Her eyes, when they open, are yellowed and sunken. Collins. Her voice is a rasp, sandpaper on concrete. Then she blinks, focuses. Diana. I'm here. Marcus sits by the window, looking like he hasn't slept in days. He stands when I enter, relief washing across his features. I'm going to get coffee. Give you 2 some time. He leaves before either of us can protest, closing the door with a soft click that sounds final. I pull a chair close to the bed and sit. Patricia watches me with those jaundiced eyes, calculating even now, trying to find the angle that gives her advantage. You came to gloat. No. I came because dying alone is something no one deserves, even people who spend their lives making others feel worthless. She flinches, the movement tiny but unmistakable. Always so dramatic, just like your father. My father was honest about who he was and what he did. You've spent 72 years performing a version of yourself that never existed. At least I had an audience. She tries for cruelty but lands on pathos, her voice too weak to carry the venom. What do you have? An empty apartment and a job nobody knows about. I should leave. I should stand up and walk out, and let her die with whatever delusions comfort her. But something keeps me seated. Not forgiveness, not yet, but curiosity about who she becomes when the performance finally ends. Why did you hate me, Patricia? Real answer, not the usual justifications. She closes her eyes. Tears leak from the corners, tracking paths through the map of wrinkles that age and illness have carved into her face. I didn't hate you. You spent 46 years proving otherwise. I was jealous. The admission comes out barely above a whisper. Of you, of Robert, of everyone who had something I didn't. You had everything, money, status, a son who worshipped you. I had things, not worth. She opens her eyes, and for the first time in my entire life, I see her without armor. Robert was a hero. Everyone loved him. And I was just the sister-in-law who married money, who threw parties, who measured her value in square footage and designer labels. Then you came along, and you were just like him. Quiet, self-contained, complete unto yourself. And I looked at Marcus, my sweet, soft boy, and I was terrified. Of what? That you would be better than him. That you would eclipse him without even trying. And if the quiet, boring cousin was superior to my son, what did that make me? A failure as a mother, a producer of mediocrity. She coughs, the sound wet and painful. So I tried to make you small. I thought if I diminished you enough, Marcus would look taller by comparison. The confession is devastating in its honesty. She didn't attack me out of malice, but out of fear. Out of the desperate need to protect her own fragile ego by destroying mine. You succeeded. My voice is steady despite the tremor in my chest. You made me feel worthless for 46 years. Every achievement I earned felt hollow because you made sure I knew it didn't count. I know. Fresh tears spill over. And I'm sorry. God, Diana, I'm so sorry. The apology I've waited a lifetime for lands like a stone in still water, creating ripples I can't predict. Part of me wants to accept it, to grant her the absolution she needs to die in peace. Part of me wants to deny her that comfort, to let her carry her guilt into whatever comes next. Sorry doesn't undo the damage, Patricia. I know that too. She reaches for my hand with fingers that feel like bird bones wrapped in tissue paper. But I need you to know that you were never the failure. I was. I failed you, failed Marcus, failed myself by being so consumed with competition that I couldn't see the people right in front of me. I let her hold my hand, feeling her pulse flutter weak and irregular against my palm. Why now? Why tell the truth when you're dying? Because the morphine has stripped away the lies I told myself. Because I'm facing whatever comes next and I'm terrified it involves accountability. Because you're here, and I don't deserve that. And the kindness of it is breaking what's left of my heart. We sit in silence, the only sound the rhythmic beep of monitors and the wheeze of her labored breathing. Outside the window, November rain begins to fall, streaking the glass like the world is crying for both of us. Can you forgive me? The question comes out small, childlike, stripped of all pretense. I think about my father's funeral, about Patricia whispering that his death was his own fault for choosing service over sense. I think about 16-year-old me, sitting alone while the family celebrated Marcus's swimming trophy. I think about 46 years of swallowed insults and silent rage, and the exhausting effort of being invisible. I can forgive you. The words surprise me as much as they seem to surprise her. Not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to carry your poison for another day. I forgive you because I want peace more than I want revenge. Patricia's face crumples. She tries to speak but can only sob, the sound raw and broken, all the tears she never cried for anyone but herself finally released. I sit with her for another hour, watching her drift in and out of morphine-induced sleep. When Marcus returns, his eyes are red but his face is calm. Thank you for coming, she apologized. His eyebrows rise. Did you believe her? I think dying has a way of burning away everything except truth. Whether that truth is enough is a different question. Marcus takes the chair I vacate, reaching for his mother's hand. I don't know how to let her go. Despite everything, she's my mother. Then hold on for as long as you can. Mourn her, love her, but don't inherit her pathology. Patricia dies 4 days later, slipping away in early morning light with Marcus at her bedside. He calls me from the hospital, his voice hollow with grief and relief. It's over. I'm sorry, Marcus. Are you? The question isn't accusatory, just curious. I consider lying, offering conventional comfort. But Marcus deserves honesty. I'm sorry you lost your mother. I'm not sorry the abuse ended. Yeah, he sounds tired beyond measure. Yeah, that's fair. The funeral is exactly what Patricia would have wanted. A production designed to demonstrate wealth and status to the maximum possible audience. The Episcopal Church in Arlington is packed with her country club friends, women in designer black dresses and men in expensive suits, all performing grief with varying degrees of sincerity. I sit in the front row because Marcus insisted, wearing the same gray suit I wore to Thanksgiving dinner. My mother sits beside me, smaller than ever, her hand gripping mine with surprising strength. She hasn't said much since Patricia died, just cries quietly and occasionally whispers, "She was my friend," like she's trying to convince herself. The eulogies are masterpieces of selective memory. Patricia was generous, glamorous, devoted to her son, a pillar of the community. They catalog her charity work, mostly writing checks to be honored at galas, and her social contributions, mostly throwing parties. No one mentions her cruelty. No one acknowledges the casualties of her narcissism. The lies are beautiful and polished and empty. When they lower the casket into ground that's been manicured into submission, I think about contrasts. My father's funeral was simple, honest, attended by people who knew exactly what he'd sacrificed. Patricia's funeral is elaborate, false, attended by people who knew only the performance. Legacy isn't what you leave in your bank account. It's the truth you leave in the hearts of people who knew you. My father left a legacy of service. Patricia left a legacy of insecurity dressed up as superiority. I know which one I've chosen. The reception is held at Patricia's house, soon to be sold to settle the estate. I walk through rooms I've learned to hate, past furniture that costs more than most people earn in a year, and I feel nothing. This house was Patricia's monument to herself. Without her energy animating it, it's just expensive emptiness. Marcus finds me standing in the dining room, looking at the table where she served me dry turkey in contempt. I'm selling everything, the house, the furniture, all of it. Fresh start. Good. I turn to face him. What will you do? Stephanie and I are moving to Montana. I've got a job offer with a private security firm, mostly training, some consulting. The kids will have space to grow up without all this. He gestures at the crystal chandelier, the oil paintings, the oppressive weight of accumulated things. I don't want them raised the way I was, measuring worth by what you own instead of who you are. You're going to be a good father, Marcus. I'm going to try. He looks uncertain, vulnerable. Will I see you? Can we have a relationship that isn't poisoned by Mom's need to make us compete? The question is so nakedly hopeful that I can't help but smile. Yes, I'd like that. Good, because my kids should know their cousin, the real you, not the version Mom tried to make everyone see. We hug, and this time it's not awkward or obligatory. It's the embrace of two survivors who finally understand they were fighting the same war from different trenches. Leaving the reception, I find my mother standing by Patricia's rose garden, looking lost among the meticulously maintained bushes. Mom, she turns, tears streaming. I should have protected you. All those years I should have told her to stop. Yes, you should have. I don't soften it because she needs to hear truth, not comfort. But you didn't, and I survived anyway. I was weak, I'm still weak. Then get stronger. You're 80 years old, but you're not dead yet. Decide who you want to be in whatever time you have left. She looks at me like I'm speaking a foreign language. I don't know how. Start by choosing me. Just once. Choose your daughter over the ghost of a friendship with someone who never really valued you. Something shifts in her expression, fear giving way to possibility. Can I visit you? At your apartment? Just spend time together without her shadow between us? Yes, I'd like that. It's a small step, maybe too late to undo decades of damage, but it's movement in the right direction. And sometimes that's all you can ask for. 15 years pass like water through fingers. Some days slow as honey, others vanishing before I can grasp them. I'm 73 now, my hair completely white, my face carved with lines that map every crisis I've managed and every secret I've kept. The woman in the mirror is a stranger who's lived inside my skin so long, we've achieved détente, if not friendship. This morning I'm standing in my Georgetown apartment. I moved 5 years ago. Upgrading from Columbia Pike to something with a view of the Potomac, wearing dress blues with 2 stars on each shoulder. Major General Diana Hart. The promotion came through last month, the culmination of 49 years in service, and today is my retirement ceremony. The uniform feels both familiar and foreign, heavy with the weight of rank I rarely wore outside official functions. Most of my career was spent in civilian clothes, in gray suits and sensible shoes, invisible by design. But today, I'm visible, standing in full regalia, ready to be seen one last time before I disappear into the retirement that most people entered decades earlier. Colonel James Chen, now retired himself and running a security consulting firm, picks me up in his Tesla. At 70, he's still sharp, still sees too much, still knows when I'm performing composure rather than feeling it. Nervous? Terrified. The admission comes easier now that Patricia's voice isn't in my head cataloging my failures. 49 years and I still don't know who I am without the work. You're Diana Hart, that's enough. Is it? He doesn't answer, which is answer enough. The ceremony is held at Fort Myer, adjacent to Arlington Cemetery, where my father is buried. The symbolism isn't lost on me. Beginning and ending in the same sacred ground, the wheel coming full circle. 200 people fill the auditorium, a mix of colleagues, subordinates, and a few politicians who know enough to show respect without knowing exactly why. Marcus is here with Stephanie and their 2 teenagers, flown in from Montana. My mother, now 95 and frail as autumn leaves, sits in the front row with a home health aide beside her. Her mind wanders more these days, but she insisted on coming, said she needed to see this. The ceremony follows protocol. Speeches from superiors praising my service in carefully vague terms. Awards presented for achievements that can't be specified. The folding and presentation of the flag. When the Major General in charge of Army Intelligence stands to speak, his words are precise and deliberate. Major General Hart's career spans operations that will remain classified for decades to come. What I can say is this. Because of her work, threats were neutralized before they could materialize. Because of her judgment, lives were saved that will never know her name. Because of her dedication, the nation is safer than it would have been without her. He pauses, looking directly at me. The greatest service is often the quietest. Major General Hart exemplifies that truth. The applause is respectful, warm, but there's restraint in it, an acknowledgement that most of what I've done can't be celebrated publicly. I stand, cross the stage, accept the Legion of Merit and the Distinguished Service Medal, shake hands with generals who know fragments of my work, but never the whole picture. Then it's my turn to speak. I stand at the podium, looking out at faces young and old, some I've mentored and some I've never met. The words I've prepared feel inadequate, too small to contain 49 years of sacrifice and silence. When I was 12 years old, I stood in Arlington Cemetery and watched them bury my father. I didn't understand then what his death meant, what he'd given up to protect secrets that remained hidden even in his funeral service. But I understood that his silence had purpose, that invisibility could be a form of power. I gripped the podium, anchoring myself. I spent the next 49 years proving that thesis. I became invisible by design, choosing silence over recognition, choosing effectiveness over fame. And I won't lie to you, it was hard. There were moments when I wanted someone to see me, to acknowledge that I mattered, to tell me that the sacrifice was worth it. A young woman in the 3rd row is crying. She reminds me of myself at that age, determined, scared, trying to prove she belongs. But here's what I learned. Being remembered isn't the point. The point is doing work that matters in moments that count. The point is standing between chaos and innocent people and choosing to absorb the impact yourself. The point is making the hard calls that no one else wants to make and living with the consequences regardless of recognition. I scan the audience, finding Marcus. He's watching me with pride that would have seemed impossible 15 years ago. Some of you will leave here today and have distinguished careers. You'll make general or admiral, you'll get your name in papers, you'll have highways named after you when you die. Good. The world needs visible leaders. But some of you will follow a different path. You'll do the work that can't be acknowledged, the work that succeeds only when it stays secret. You'll sacrifice recognition for effectiveness, and on the days when that sacrifice feels unbearable, remember this. The sunrise is its own reward. The knowledge that somewhere, someone is eating dinner in peace because of a choice you made, that's enough. It has to be enough. I step back from the podium. The applause is louder now, sustained, and I see people in the back standing, then more, until the entire room is on their feet. It's not for me personally. It's for everyone who's ever chosen the shadows, everyone who's ever protected secrets at personal cost, everyone who's ever been invisible by design. After the ceremony, during the reception, the young woman from the 3rd row approaches. She's maybe 25 with fierce eyes and the particular intensity of someone who's chosen this path deliberately. Ma'am, I'm 2nd Lieutenant Foster. I just wanted to thank you for your speech. What part resonated, Lieutenant? The part about being invisible. My family doesn't understand why I went into intelligence instead of something they could brag about. They think I wasted my potential. I reach into my pocket and pull out a challenge coin. 2 stars on one side, an eye with the words, "Silence is power," on the other. I press it into her palm. They're measuring you with the wrong metrics. Don't waste energy trying to make them see what they're not equipped to understand. Just do the work. The work is enough. She grips the coin like it's a lifeline. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. After she leaves, Marcus approaches with his family. His kids, 16 and 14, look uncomfortable in their formal clothes, but genuinely interested in being here. Aunt Diana, Dad says you're like a legend in the intelligence community. The 16-year-old, Sarah, named after my mother, speaks with her father's directness. Your dad exaggerates. No, I don't. Marcus puts his arm around Sarah. Your aunt spent 49 years protecting this country in ways I can't tell you about. She's exactly what a legend looks like. The 14-year-old, Robert, named after my father, which made me cry when Marcus told me, asks the question that cuts to the heart. But if nobody knows what you did, how do you know it mattered? Out of the mouths of children come the questions that haunt us in the dark hours. I know because I was there. I know because I made decisions and saw outcomes. Sometimes knowing is enough. But don't you want people to know? Don't you want credit? I look at this boy who carries my father's name and hope he never has to learn these lessons the way I did. Wanting recognition is natural, but needing it is dangerous. It makes you vulnerable to people who can withhold it as a weapon. Better to find validation in the work itself. Marcus's wife Stephanie joins us, and I'm struck by how healthy this family looks, how they laugh easily, touch each other with casual affection, exist without the undercurrent of competition and cruelty that defined my own childhood. Marcus broke the cycle. He chose to parent differently, and the evidence is in these well-adjusted teenagers who aren't afraid to ask hard questions. Are you going to be okay after retirement? Stephanie's question is gentle but pointed. I don't know yet. Check back in 6 months. She laughs. Fair answer. My mother appears guided by her aide, and the crowd parts instinctively for her. At 95, she's a ghost of herself, but her eyes clear when she sees me in my dress blues with 2 stars gleaming. Robert would be so proud. Her voice is paper thin. He always knew you'd be extraordinary. Did he? He told me the day you were born. Sarah, this one's going to change the world. She just won't tell anyone about it. She reaches for my hand. He was right. The aide helps her sit, and Marcus's kids gather around their great-grandmother, asking questions about family history I never knew they cared about. This is legacy too, not medals or monuments, but stories passed down, connections maintained, the web of family continuing despite fractures. The reception winds down as evening approaches. People drift away, back to their lives and missions and secrets. Colonel Chen finds me standing alone by the windows, looking out at Arlington Cemetery in the distance. Makes a speech very inspiring. You think I believe it? I think you want to believe it. Whether you actually do is above my pay grade. We stand in comfortable silence, 2 old soldiers who've seen too much and survived anyway. What now, Diana? You've spent 49 years being Nightingale. Who are you when you take off the uniform? It's the question I've been avoiding, the terror that lives underneath every moment of this ceremony. I have no idea. Good. That means you get to decide. No protocol, no mission parameters, no classified restrictions. Just Diana Hart figuring out what brings her joy. I'm not sure I remember what joy feels like. Then you've got a hell of an adventure ahead of you. I drive home alone, the stars and medals in a box on the passenger seat, feeling untethered in ways both terrifying and exhilarating. 49 years of purpose, of direction, of knowing exactly what I'm supposed to do and how to do it. All of it ended today. Tomorrow I wake up as a civilian, and I have no map for that territory. The apartment feels different when I enter, like it's already preparing for whoever I'm about to become. I change out of the dress blues, hanging them carefully in the closet where they'll gather dust until I die, and someone has to decide what to do with a lifetime of service medals. In jeans and a soft sweater, I pour wine I actually drink this time and step onto the balcony. The Potomac reflects city lights, a river of illumination in the darkness. Planes cross the sky toward Reagan National, carrying people to destinations I'll never know. My phone buzzes, a text from an unknown number. Ma'am, this is Lieutenant Foster. Thank you again for the coin and the advice. You've inspired me to embrace the silence. I type back. The silence will embrace you back. Another text. This one from Marcus. You were magnificent today. The kids haven't stopped talking about how cool it is to have an actual spy in the family. Thank you for being part of their lives. I respond, thank you for letting me be. Tell them I'm not a spy, I'm worse. I'm the person who tells spies what to do. His laugh emoji response makes me smile. A third text, from a number I haven't seen in 15 years. Diana, this is Colonel Chen's daughter, Rachel. Dad asked me to send you this. An attached photo shows a young woman in Army intelligence uniform holding my challenge coin. The caption reads, "Paying it forward, thanks for inspiring the next generation." The weight of legacy settles on my shoulders. Different from rank or responsibility, but no less real. I've spent 49 years being invisible, and in that invisibility, I've created ripples that extend beyond my ability to track. Lieutenant Foster will inspire someone else. Rachel Chen is already mentoring junior officers. The teenagers who carry my father's and mother's names will grow up, understanding that service doesn't require applause. Maybe that's enough. Maybe Patricia was wrong, and being forgotten isn't the same as not mattering. Maybe the truest measure of a life isn't how many people remember your name, but how many people are alive because you existed. I stand on my balcony in the darkness, a woman who spent 49 years protecting secrets. And for the first time in my adult life, I allow myself to be seen, really seen, by the only person who matters, myself. I am Diana Hart. I am 73 years old. I am invisible. And I am finally completely free. The city lights blur, and I realize I'm crying, not from sadness, but from relief. The war is over. The performance has ended. The silence that defined me no longer confines me. Tomorrow, I'll wake up without a mission for the first time in nearly 5 decades. The terror of that should overwhelm me. Instead, I feel something unfamiliar and wonderful spreading through my chest, like warmth after years of cold. Hope, not for recognition or validation or vindication. Just hope that the next chapter, however long or short it might be, will be written for an audience of one, on terms I set, measuring success by metrics I choose. I raise my glass to the Potomac, to the city, to the darkness that held me and the light I'm walking toward. Here's to being nobody, I whisper to the night, and finding out that's more than enough. The river flows on, indifferent and eternal, and I stand watching it, a woman who saved the world 100 times and never needed the world to know. That's not tragedy, that's triumph. And in the silence that follows, I finally understand the difference.